Welcome to Formula One and Son. I'm Tom.
And I am Oscar.
It's good to have you back. And for episode 2 of Formula One and Son, Oscar, I guess we've got to start on a little bit of a sad note. And no, not the Daniel Ricciardo moment. We'll talk about that a little bit later as we review the Australian Grand Prix.
A bit sadder than that.
A little bit sadder than that, unfortunately and solemnly. The passing of Charlie Whiting, race director, unexpectedly, just before the race weekend really got underway. Charlie's just one of those characters you've seen around the grid, and of course, always hear, particularly Sebastian Vettel, saying, "Oh, talk to Charlie and get Charlie to check this."
Yeah.
So, yeah, really, really shocking and kind of sad way to start the F1 season. Some nice tributes, of course, over the weekend.
2 sad ways to start the year.
Yeah, definitely.
On a first note, in practice, we noticed that F1 TV was being really laggy on the server.
Yeah, that's right. We thought I'd use F1 TV a little bit. Not all the practice sessions were televised, free to air. Here in America anyway, they cover it on ESPN. They don't have all the practice sessions.
Yeah, and you filed a complaint about that or asked F1 about that, and then they said they fixed it. And from what I've seen, it's been pretty smooth.
Yeah, it was pretty good. There was a lot of, if you follow the Formula One subreddit on Reddit, there was a lot of complaints about F1 TV during those early practice sessions, and it was intolerable. It just jumped and it was all over the place.
Just like Ricciardo's car.
Yeah, even if you tried to replay it and not just use it to watch live, I tried to watch FP3 in replay, and it was even trying to replay it was useless. I did submit a complaint, really just to join the chorus of voices, and they responded really quickly. They came back and said, "Yeah, we know it was really bad." But we've kind of fixed the issues and it'll be good for the other sessions. We didn't watch the race live because we're based here in the US. And
that was at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and even though we're Aussies, it's oddly the one race we can't really watch live easily. And so we didn't watch it through F1 TV, but all the reports were that it was fine. And I have looked at part of it just to see if it played well, and it did. And apparently they got on top of it. So well done, F1. I mean, a little bit of a bad way to end it, but F1 TV looks like it's going to be a great addition to watching the sport. Look, lots of great camera views and things like that. Pit lane and the data looks really good.
And like the live feed from our provider on the TV, then we could get like, say, your favorite driver's point of view, in our case, Ricciardo, sorry for the bias, and you could just watch the live feed, and that would be a pretty good combination. Like, you could be watching the live feed. Oh, what's my favorite driver doing? Ricciardo. Ricciardo has to be a favorite driver. Oh, what's Ricciardo doing? Oh, he's here. Okay, back to the live feed. Oh, look, a crash happened.
Well, even better, you can have on TV, just the main world feed, as they call it, what you would see on TV, and then have, on your laptop next to you or something, you can switch between driver cams or whatever you want to do, or look at the data, which is good. I did notice one thing in between, the difference between a laptop and my phone. If I tried to watch it on this is on an Android phone. If I tried to watch it on an app like the replays, I couldn't fast forward. And so that meant if I stopped it and exited, it would start from the very beginning. I had no way to fast forward. Whereas through the web browser, you could fast forward to different sections. So I don't know if they'll fix that in the apps, but yeah, it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah,
made the laptop a better experience.
What I noticed on my Android tablet is that I'd have to go into the app, and then when I looked into the archive, nothing would show up and it'd keep loading. So I had to exit the app and then go back into it, and then it would load, and this is every time for me.
Yeah, it's certainly they've still got a bit of work to do on the apps and that. They're a bit dicey, but anyway, it seems like they've got on top of some of the issues. Coming through a nice 1080p at 50 hertz. What's that mean? Well, it's high definition. 50 hertz just means the frame rate's high, and when you're streaming something like that, and particularly motorsport or any sport, you want that high frame rate. Otherwise, it looks quite jerky. So the quality was good when it works. So I look forward to it through the season. I think should add a little something. Now, Oscar, let's get into the race weekend. Quali, what do you think? What did you see?
Well, I saw the rookie drivers were being really good by out-qualifying, except for Giovinazzi, but Raikkonen has a lot of experience. But as I noticed, Norris out-qualified Saint Sainz by a long shot.
Norris had a
qualifying,
cracker of a quali.
Yeah,
He qualified P8,
Norris qualifying in, P8, with Sainz coming in P18. Apparently that has to do with Kubica getting a puncture right in front of him and slowing him
that's right.
down.
I think it was Sainz was doing his last run in Q1 because he didn't even get out of Q1, did he? And that's when Kubica got a puncher. And that was an interesting story because Kubica apparently suddenly had too much grip or more grip than expected. He said the car really came alive in that final run in quali. And that kind of caught him unawares. But Kubica had a bit of a shocker. Lando, though, to make it through to Q3, great for his debut. And also unexpected, Zach, what's his name, from McLaren, got interviewed a number of times. And I don't think they were expecting to do that well in quali. So that was great. I guess the surprise of quali was, what did we see in preseason testing? Ferrari, they were all over everyone else. Mercedes are a bit of a worry. And what happens?
You see Mercedes 1-2 in qualifying and then eventually in the race too.
Well, let's not talk about the race. Let's not jump ahead to that. But look, Hamilton and Bottas were really close. But the big surprise was, over 6 or 7 tenths ahead of Vettel in P3 in quali?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ferrari, and again, jumping a bit ahead to the race, kind of the pace that we saw in preseason testing, it either wasn't there or Mercedes had a car full of sandbags and really showed their pace in Australia. And Hamilton just pipping Bottas. Bottas actually looking pretty good through a lot of quali. And we'll talk more about Bottas because obviously he was the man of the weekend, really.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
Albon on Kvyat. Albon beats the Torpedo in qualifying.
In quali, anyway. Yeah. Or in race, actually. But we'll get to
that. He out-qualifies Kvyat by 2 places, but he also was Kvyat's not new to F1.
No,
as we know.
This is his
He's been around the place.
5th year.
He's been in Toro Rosso, Red Bull F2. Was he in F2?
Oh, he probably would have been at some point.
Toro
but he was
Rosso,
a Ferrari.
Red Bull.
He was a Ferrari test driver when he got kicked out of
Toro
Toro
Rosso again.
Yeah.
And he gets beaten by a rookie driver who's never driven in an F1 car before this. So, I don't know. Is this a sign?
Yeah, it was pretty close. I think there's a couple of stories through quali. Obviously, the Mercedes outdoing the Ferraris. Verstappen splitting the Ferraris. And particularly because Gasly got knocked out in Q1.
Yeah.
And that, Gasly, didn't have a great weekend. Didn't have a great preseason testing.
Didn't have a great anything.
Didn't have a great weekend. I wish him. I hope he improves. At this point, Kvyat's quali was okay, but Kvyat's race was really good. So, at this point, could we see a swap at some point?
Kvyat out-qualified Gasly
but could we
in a Toro Rosso compared to a Red Bull.
Well, and for a long time in the race, he held up Verstappen, but we'll get there.
And in a potential of the car, too. Verstappen qualified 3rd. His teammate qualifying 13, actually.
Verstappen was
places
4th.
Behind that.
He split the Ferraris. And that was right at the lowest moment. Leclerc was a bit nothing in quali. That's fine. He was kind of up there. Kind of reminded you of when Raikkonen was with Vettel. He was kind of up there, but didn't really threaten. But then, of course, the Haas were probably a class of their own in that best of the rest kind of race. And then it was just super tight. I mean, you ended up with, I think, Raikkonen, Perez, and Hulkenberg. So you're talking Alpha, Racing Point, and the Renaults. And to some extent the Haas is all within, tenths of each other,
and the
really
Alphas
tight.
Are looking a lot stronger than they were last year.
Yeah, certainly in one lap pace. I worry about their race pace a little bit, but we'll get to that. So kind of interesting quali. I guess, seeing 2 Mercedes up the front and a Ferrari, a little bit of what we'd expect and a little bit of last year, but really a different story to what we might have expected. And certainly, the race was pretty exciting. So that was quali. And then, of course, we get to the race. And, there was a number of different stories. I thought, Oscar, probably the story that you've got to be excited about. And I talked about it in our last episode. Bottas with the beard, He's a new man.
Yeah.
He got that great start. Actually, it wasn't a phenomenally better start than Hamilton. Hamilton just got a little smidge of wheel spin, and Bottas managed to get him into turn 1. And And that was kind of the race to some extent.
And Bottas ends up beating Hamilton in the race by 20 seconds.
Yeah, so what was interesting about that, and it kind of came out later, was that from about lap 4 onwards, because we kind of go, okay, well, Bottas got the slightly better start. What's Hamilton going to do? And you think, oh, okay, Hamilton's going to come back at him. He's going to pull a Lewis. He's going to be all over him.
Hey,
Bottas
Valtteri,
will
it's
fade.
James.
Hey, Valtteri, it's James. But that didn't happen. What happened is Bottas pulled away. And he did that after about the 4th or 5th lap. And what turns out, Hamilton had some damage to his car on the that flat bit of the barge boards right near the rear wheel.
Yeah.
A bit had fallen off. They don't know how it happened, but apparently, and it's this small bit, but apparently it was enough to cause enough damage to unbalance Hamilton's car, and he just couldn't keep up. So Bottas, away he goes. And in fact, I talked last week about having the eye of the tiger and the hunger. Bottas's comments at the end of the race, which I can't repeat on this family-friendly podcast, were pretty funny. And, he wanted that extra point. I guess that's another story we'll get to, is that fastest lap extra point, which a lot of people kind of poo-pooed before it.
I like that idea.
I think we thought it would be interesting. Turns out it was super interesting.
And also very good for Valtteri.
Yeah, it was great for Valtteri. He wanted to go for it, but it was this real strategic thing about, do I go push hard to get that extra point, which is risky. What if I spin? My tires are worn out. Should I do it? You saw other people wanting to go for that fastest lap as well. So I thought it was exciting.
Bottas considered pitting, but from looking at the results, if he had, then Hamilton would have beaten him. Not sure if he would have gotten past, but Bottas certainly at the end of the race did not have a pit stop over Hamilton.
Yeah, but you guess he could have. Presumably at some point he was managing the gap. Like he didn't need to push hard. Yeah. So, but what was interesting behind that is you go, okay, well, if Hamilton is 20 odd seconds behind, bit of damage, okay, well, Vettel's going to be all over him, and then he's going to be all over Bottas. No, not what we saw. Yeah. The Ferraris, well, particularly Vettel, didn't have a lot of pace. Interestingly, at one stage after he comes out, Leclerc starts to catch up Vettel, and what do we get?
Yeah.
Charles, it's James.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, but I was surprised. Leclerc actually radios in and is like, should I overtake him or should I back off? And they basically said, yeah, back off.
And they only ended up finishing a second apart. But Vettel getting number one priority over Leclerc in the first race of the season.
Well, to be fair,
Leclerc was faster.
Mattia Binotto, he kind of came out and said, we're going to prefer Vettel over Leclerc. It's probably the right call. They got some grief last year, Ferrari. I think it was Monza, where they let Raikkonen kind of sit in front of Vettel. Yeah. Now, that was a lot later in the season where it was clear they should have backed Vettel. But they're making the tough calls early, I guess. But what about Verstappen and Honda? Honda get a podium for the first time since 2008, Barrichello or something like that. But that wasn't a real podium on merit. I think that was a weather-affected race where Barrichello got that. So amazing.
And
Verstappen seemed fast.
Didn't finish that far off from Hamilton. He was only 2 seconds behind, a bit less.
Well, Hamilton had that bit of damage. So let's hope that it's not going to be Mercedes off in the distance, and then we'll see if Verstappen or the Red Bulls can hold fire to the feet of the Ferraris. But yeah, it was great. Verstappen overtook Vettel.
Do you think Vettel was having a serious problem towards the end of the race and he was slowing down?
Look, there's a lot of talk about what happened to Ferrari's pace. And some people are going, is there a problem with the power unit, the PU as they call it?
Well, at the time, that's what it looked like.
Yeah, look, is there something going on? There's been a few issues. I think Haas had a few issues, obviously through pre-season testing. So where did Ferrari's pace go? Vettel seemed pretty chill afterwards. Even after quali and after the race, he's like, yeah, we got to work out where our pace went, but we know we've got a fast package. Australia doesn't suit us the most. So, let's see in Bahrain in kind of a week and a bit's time. If it doesn't come back then, I guess they're going to have to start to get worried. But yeah, they were kind of, at one point, Vettel came on Team Radio and said, why are we so slow? And they responded by saying, we don't know.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a worry, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. At the moment, almost the Alphas are showing more potential than the Ferraris at the moment.
Yeah, they were good. Interestingly, Raikkonen pit stopped early, and this cascaded and caused a lot of people to cover him off. I think it was only lap 12 or so.
Yeah.
And they thought it was strategic, but actually it turns out Raikkonen pit stopped early because one of the tear-offs from his visor got stuck in a brake duct,
Really?
and he was getting some heating issues. But that actually messed with everyone's race strategy, so had a big impact on the race. Raikkonen, you didn't see a lot of him on track, did we? But he had a good race. He ended
he
up
finished
finishing.
where he qualified.
Yeah,
So-
so he ended up 8th, and you'd have to say a pretty good race. Giovinazzi, he had a big train behind him at one point,
Yeah.
and that was holding up
Just
the
kind of got
race.
the worst end of it.
We saw Kvyat holding up Gasly, and
Yeah.
and hey, Gasly on merit could not get past Kvyat, and Kvyat comes
Yeah.
away with the point. Gasly no
But
points.
Gasly was looking so fast last year. Well, not as much potential as Leclerc was showing for Ferrari.
Now,
But-
Oscar, I was also impressed with Lance Stroll. He scored points on his debut. And look, I'm kind of quietly glad. Perez finished down in 13th. I've always thought Lance Stroll's pretty good. And I'm glad
Yeah.
now he's in a car and against a driver who's rated. And he drove really well, as he often does in the races. And yeah, good on him. It's been great to see him up
Someone
there.
I'm not impressed about is Haas. Because they,
Oh, okay.
again, did not fit the tyre on Grosjean's car.
Well,
Once again.
I know. Can you believe the wheels fell off the wagon yet again after? And now, to be fair, last year it happened to 2 cars. This year only to 1 car. So hopefully next year it doesn't happen at all.
Yay.
They're progressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, really sad though for Grosjean. But Magnussen got a solid result, best of the rest down. In fact, better than best of the rest because Gasly was out of position. So he came 6th. Oscar, it's surprising that we're really talking about all these results because you would think as Ricciardo fans we wouldn't have watched the race after about 8 seconds.
I still care
Why is
about
that?
F1 outside of Ricciardo.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a Ricciardo fan, sure, but I'm not one of those people who just shuts off the TV or goes away from the game
when your
just
man is out of race. Yeah, no, look, I must admit my heart fell. And I saw a video afterwards of that little bit of concrete and then the grass, and there was a little bit of a raise in the grass.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened there is the front end's dipped down in that little bit of concrete. The rear end's high. They're running pretty high rake, and the front wings just caught that grass and just ripped it off. And that was really the end of his race.
And I tried doing that in F1
On the game.
2018, and it did not work.
That's a bad simulation. Codemasters
Yeah.
will need to get that correct
Yeah.
for F1 2019. Hey, look, but having said that, one thing I heard after the race, and I'm a bit kind of disappointed by this, there's been a bit of noise from Ricciardo saying that his promotion schedule in Australia, look, it's obviously big, right? He's the Aussie. People want their kind of pound of flesh from him.
Yeah.
But he's kind of saying that hurt his race weekend prep. I mean, his own people need to manage that. He needs to manage that himself. I don't think he's kind of saying in his excuse he had a bit of bad luck, but he's saying that he's looking forward to the next race where it's quiet and there's no expectations of him. But,
Yeah.
I don't like hearing that from him. It's like, just manage that, dude. And you're a character and, you're kind of reaping what you sow in that regard. You like to kind of carry on, and he is a great character, but a bit disappointed to see him
Yeah.
kind of complaining about that. But yeah, look, really, really shocking result. Anything else in the race that really caught your eye?
Well, one thing, Kubica was really slow. That was
Oh man,
Yeah.
we haven't talked much about the Williams. Look, they're
even
nowhere.
slower than last year.
Yeah, there's one thing I would say. I think Russell was outqualified Kubica. Wait, that's right, because Kubica had that
Yeah.
puncher. But Russell outqualified him. He beat him in the race.
By a
Kubica
lap.
though lost his front wing too early, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and so
So-
he had to pit. But
Russell to Kubica, if he hadn't had to pit, I think Kubica might have had a
Look,
bit of a chance.
presumably at this point in the season, Williams are just treating it like testing. And they both finished, didn't they? They qualified. They weren't
Yeah.
DNF'd.
And
So that's
also,
good.
Williams are a historic team, so I doubt they'd leave F1 for just being slow.
Oh, I don't think they will. But yeah, look, hopefully they start to find some form somewhere.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing at the moment. They're
2021
multiple
because
seconds
of that.
behind the next slowest team. And in fact,
Multiple
it's
minutes
it's
behind.
almost hard to say who the next slowest team is. McLaren. I thought it would be McLaren, but they make it through to Q3.
I thought it would be
Alpha
Toro
looked pretty
Rosso.
good. Toro Rosso, great result. the Renaults looking good. Probably the Renaults were a little bit disappointing, frankly, but Hulkenberg had a great race. I know he finished 7th and he qualified well. Interestingly, just going back to quali, Ricciardo got out qualified by Hulkenberg only by 1,000th or 100th. But Hulkenberg didn't get his second run in Q2.
Yeah, he's like, I was watching the live feed, and as some of you may have seen, you probably watched qualifying if you're listening to this podcast, you might have seen that. Like, I saw that one of the Renault cars, I couldn't see which one, was like sticking halfway out from the pit lane.
Yeah,
but then they like stopped him halfway.
That was Hulkenberg, right? And he had that issue, and they had to pull him in. That's why he didn't get his second run. So yeah, you did good eyes, Sosk. Good eyes. You did see that. Probably the only other thing we need to mention. Obviously, no Honda engine broke down. However, a Renault engine did break down. We saw Sainz on fire, didn't we? Pulled into the kind of pit lane area there and on fire. So. Reliability was, aside from Ricciardo's front wing falling off, Grosjean's wheel falling off.
That's also not reliability.
Reliability. It was really only Sainz that DNF'd because of reliability issues. So, Honda, very happy campers. So
last year, there were like 5 people who DNF'd from reliability.
Yeah. Look, the takeaway for me is resurgent Bottas. Hopefully he can keep some momentum. I think that'd be really exciting if he can. He comes away with 26 points. He got that fastest lap point.
Esteban Ocon is probably like screaming at the rest.
Did you see Ocon did this little golf clap at the end? Looked at Toto Wolff. It's like, he was hoping that he'd have that spot, but let's see though. If Bottas has had some good starts to the season, so he needs to keep the momentum. Hamilton seemed unplussed. He's like, good on Valtteri. We've got maximum points as a team, as Hamilton always says. That was the race. A little bit. It was kind of better than last year, but it still wasn't a super exciting race.
Not really.
No, and it was my heart.
China will probably be the first really exciting race.
Well, Bahrain.
It was exciting last year because Ricciardo won it.
Yeah, so now we're looking forward to Bahrain. That's in about a week and a half. And look, what are we looking at, Oscar?
Ricciardo for win.
No. I think we're looking to see if Mercedes are going to have the same advantage.
Mercedes probably going. Maybe Ferrari might be a bit closer.
Yeah, look,
I don't know. Bahrain's a pretty fast circuit, so Mercedes engine.
Yeah, I want to see if Ferrari can close that gap, and as well as that, I want to see if Leclerc can have a better weekend, and of course, the Renaults.
Yeah. Probably expecting a better weekend from Williams. Then because, they have a Mercedes engine.
Yeah.
So
true. They might be better for their pace. They might be less of a disadvantage.
So who else has Mercedes engine? The Racing Points also might do a bit better.
Yeah, and they said they're going to bring upgrades to every race, I think, this season. They did pretty well for the first race, so we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, well, we look forward to Bahrain. That's us for Formula One and Sun, Oscar. And we will catch you next time after the Bahrain race.
Feel free to mention our podcast to some of your friends because they're missing out if they don't already know about our podcast.
I guess normal thing, if you're on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate it. And please subscribe. And we'll see you next time on
Formula One and Sun. And also mostly Sun.
Hey!